And we're going to continue with the fourth chapter of Greenwitch by Susan Cooper. So Merriman, Captain Tom, and Will all have a conversation about how the Dark is pretending to be this painter, and that he took a totem from Barney, the drawing that Barney made of the harbor, which Merriman had had plans for. The Dark released Rufus the dog and made him fall, causing Simon to trip. But Simon saw the old ones, Captain Tom, Merriman, and Will, fight the Agent of the Dark. Both Jane and Barney only saw him being fought, and now we will pick up from there. Jane stood again on Kamar Head, but now she was alone, and the storm at its height. It seemed neither night nor day. The sky was gray all around, heavy, hanging, sharp lightning split it. Thunder rumbled and thudded, echoing back from the inland moors. Gulls whirled and screamed in the wind. Below, the sea boiled, waves raging, tearing at the rocks. Jane felt herself lean on the wind, lean out over the cliff, and then leap high in the air, out, down, falling through the wind with the gulls swooping around her as she fell. There was a sick horror in falling, but a kind of wild delight, too. The great waves swirled to meet her, and with no shock nor splash nor sense of another element, she was still falling, falling slowly, floating down through the green underwater, where none of the wild frenzy from the storm above could reach. There was no movement, but a slow slaying of weed from the deepest touch of the great ocean swells, and before her she saw the Greenwitch. The great leafy image rested upright against a group of craggy rocks. They gave it shelter. The Greenwitch stood undamaged, just as Jane had seen it before. The square, unhuman head sat on the gigantic broad body. Its leaves and hawthorn blossoms were spread like weed in the gentle tug of the water, rippling to and fro. Small fish darted round the head. The whole structure swayed now and then, rhythmically, with a long reach of the storm swell pulled at it. Then, as Jane watched, the swaying grew more pronounced, as though the storm were reaching deeper into the sea. She could feel the pull of the waves herself. She moved like a fish, both obeying and resisting them. Greenwich began to turn and sway, faster, further, drawn so far in each direction that it seemed the whole figure must topple and be carried away. Jane felt a dark chill in the water, a sense of great threatening power, and to her horror the movement of the Greenwich changed. Limbs stirred of themselves. The leafy head rippled and stirred as if it were a face. Then the coldness suddenly was gone. The sea was muted blue and green again, with the weed and the fish swaying in the swell. And now the Greenwich, she knew, was alive. It was neither good nor evil. It was simply alive, aware of her, as she had all aware of her, as she had all along been aware of it. The huge leafy head turned toward her, and without a voice the Greenwich spoke in her mind. "I have a secret," the Greenwich said. Jane felt the loneliness that she had felt in the thing up on the headland, in the beginning, the sorrow and emptiness, but through it, she felt the Greenwich clutching at something for comfort, like a child with a toy. Though this child was hundreds of years old, and through all its endlessly renewed life had never had such comfort before. "I have a secret. I have a secret." "You are lucky," Jane said. The living tower of branches bent toward her, nearer. "I have a secret. It is mine, mine, mine. But I will show you, if you promise not to tell. Not to tell." "I promise," Jane said. The Greenwich lurched sideways, all its twigs and leafy armlets rippling together in the water, and as it moved away from the shallow niche in the rocks against which it had been leaning, Jane saw something there in the shadows. It was a small, bright, shining thing, lying within a cleft in the rock. On the white sand, it was a small, glowing stick. It looked like nothing of importance, except that it glowed with this strange light. As to a small child showing its toy, she said to the Green Witch, "It's lovely." "My secret," said the Green Witch. "I guard it. No one shall touch it. I guard it well for always." Without warning, the darkness and the chill came over the water, infusing the whole undersea world. The Green Witch changed utterly. In an instant she became hostile, angry, threatening. It loomed over Jane. "You'll tell! You'll tell!" The leafy head split horribly into a parody of a face. Snarling, furious, the branching form seemed to spread, opening, grasping out to envelop her. As the Green Witch lurched inexorably forward, Jane backed away in terror, cowering down. The water was very hot, suddenly fierce, oppressive, full of roaring noise. "I won't tell! I promise! I promise! I promise!" Cold air was on her face. "Jane, wake up! Come on, Jane, wake up now! It's all over! It's not real, Jane!" Oh, and let's do that again. "Jane, wake up! Come on, Jane, wake up now! It's all over! It's not real! Jane, wake up!" Merriman's deep voice was soft but insistent, his hands strong and reassuring on her shoulders. Jane sat bolt upright in the little bedroom, looking at his face, leant her damp forehead on his arm, and burst into tears. "Tell me about it," said Merriman soothingly. "I can't, I promised." The tears came faster. "Now look here," Merriman said, when she was calmer. "You had a bad nightmare, and it's all over. I heard a very muffled sort of shout in here, and when I came in, you were right down among the bedclothes. You must have been as hot as blazes. No wonder you dreamed. Now tell me about it." "Oh, dear," said Jane miserably. She told him. Said Merriman, when she had finished. His bleak, bony face was in shadow. She could read nothing from it. "It was awful," Jane said. "The last bit." "I'm sure it was. Last night's doings were too rich a diet for your imagination, I'm afraid." Jane managed a small, weak grin. "We had apple pie and cheese for supper tonight. That might have helped, too." Merriman chuckled and stood up, looming against the low ceiling. "All right now?" "All right, thank you." As he went out, she said, "Gummery." "What is it?" "I really do feel sorry for the Green Witch still." "I hope you may retain that emotion," said Merriman obscurely. "Sleep well now." Jane lay tranquil, listening to the rain against the window, and the last rumbles of the dying storm. Just before she drowsed away, she thought, in a sudden flash of remembering, that she recognized the small bright object that in her dream had been the Green Witch's secret. But before she could catch at the memory, she was asleep. And that's the end of chapter 4.